Hello, and welcome to Mangaroos, the only manga podcast that would totally kill a yakuza guy for you if it found out that yakuza guy had punched you in the face repeatedly. This week, we're talking about a little bit of an exciting manga called My Home Hero. My name is Jason, and I'm joined this week by...
Olive Oil Farm heiress Alex.
And world's greatest dad, Mark.
Wow, I love the enthusiasm.
But where does that place Jason then?
Second greatest dad, or maybe not even in the ranking. We won't know until later in the episode.
Okay.
Yeah, stick around to the end of the episode to find out where I landed on the best dads ranking. This week we're talking about My Home Hero, which was written by Naoki Yamakawa and illustrated by Masashi Asaki. This has been published in Young Magazine since 2017, and it's got 20 volumes already.
That's really fast.
That's a lot. They're just pumping them out. And it's kind of a timely manga because the anime adaptation actually just started earlier this month. And I
watched
checked.
the trailer.
Tokyo
I watched
MX.
the trailer too.
Do y'all watch anime on Tokyo MX? Can I ask you a serious question?
Sometimes
I never have.
live, but mostly I watch it on Amazon Prime or on Netflix. So
I have this terrible habit of I still record the anime that comes on Tokyo MX. And
you're old school.
But I don't watch it anymore because streaming comes on. So I probably caught this.
What was the one? I can't remember what it was called. The guy who did Sket Dance and Witch Watch, he did that space. Do you remember the one I'm talking about? He did a sci-fi limited series. It won the big manga award for that year.
No.
And God dang it, what the heck was that called?
Is it not Snowball Earth?
So, yeah, here it is. Astra Lost in Space. That was the English title. Kanata no Astra. And the reason I wanted to find out what that was called is because that's the last time I recorded an anime off TV. It was in 2001. I wanted it was
that's
that.
Too much.
That's over 2 decades ago.
Yeah, that was too long ago.
No, it was 2017. It was 2017.
Okay.
And it used to come on
the same year that this came out. Wait, did this season or did this series pivot you away from recording anime on TV to the world of manga?
Changed my life.
Wow.
Well, no, what really happened was Disney Plus came into my life. And for whatever reason, Disney Plus in Japan just gets all of the latest anime as it comes out.
Oh, really?
They know how it's done.
Yeah, all 3 episodes of My Home Hero are up on there already, which is pretty neat. I haven't watched any of them yet. But anyway, we're here to talk about the manga. What did you think of it? Alex, go ahead and tell us. What did you think of this first volume of My Home Hero?
Well, first of all, I thought that I need to start writing more whodunits because I don't know what would happen if I ever had to murder a member of the yakuza.
Right?
That wouldn't turn out very well, and I have absolutely no idea how to dispose of the body. Tetsuya has a lot of really good ideas about how to dispose bodies.
He's very resourceful.
And allegedly it's because he's just got this hobby, but I wonder if it's... even if you write about this stuff, is it that easy to start chopping up people's bodies? I don't know. I think I would have a bit of a hard time. So maybe I'm just not prepared enough for the world.
And you think that writing a bunch
manga taught me.
You think that writing a bunch of mystery novels will give you the preparation you need?
Yeah, it would. But I liked it overall because, I was saying, I like cat and mouse stories. And this one is very cat and mouse. It's very, back in the day, I loved Death Note.
I got Death Note vibes. Yeah.
Kyoichi is definitely L, and Tetsuo is Raito. So it's that dynamic. So I liked it.
Should mention, since I didn't really give a plot synopsis at the start of the episode because all of my equipment was falling off of my table. So brief synopsis for My Home Hero Volume 1. Tetsuo is a 47-year-old kind of average salary man with very limited upper body strength.
Is he average?
Well, no, he
can make a tub hot pot for bodies.
Oh, okay. No, wait. Can we go back to his?
Okay.
If you look at him in the office setting, he is from what we see in Volume 1, he is respected by his peers. He's by no means at the top of the pile, but he's the guy that they go to fix claims from customers. So he's well respected in what he does.
Correct. So he is a slightly somewhat above average salary man.
He's above average salary man.
You know, some special areas of interest and special areas of knowledge.
He's also got a strong marriage.
We'll get into that later. Yes.
He's visiting his daughter who's in university, and she's going through a bit of a rebellious phase where she doesn't want to have anything to do with her dad, who she used to love very much. I think is a common thing for all parents to experience.
You guys aren't there yet, though. Your kids have yet to reject you fully.
Well, I don't know. One of them is pretty close.
It depends. And they meet at a family restaurant. It turns out that she's got a bunch of bruises on her face. Tetsuo says, "What happened to you? What's going on?" He finds out that her boyfriend has been punching her up a little bit. The boyfriend turns out to be some yakuza guy.
Unacceptable.
Tetsuo happens to get trapped in a closet when the yakuza guy comes back to his daughter's apartment.
Also
and
unacceptable.
One thing leads to another, and the yakuza guy ends up getting killed by being bashed on the head repeatedly with a rice cooker.
I mean, what is
what a way
good
to go.
father supposed to do in that situation?
That's a no-win situation, honestly.
Yeah.
I think we'd all do the same in the same situation. But what did you think, Mark? What did you think of Volume 1?
I thought this was the perfect antidote to Chino no Wadachi. It had... I mean, it's basically the same story, except that there's...
Is it really? I need you to unpack that a little bit.
It's tempered with humor, which makes it... It takes all the eeriness out of the story. If there were 0 jokes in this thing, then it would be so much scarier and so much more frightening. This is on the level with so many K-dramas that I've been watching recently. I mean, there's a serious...
I was going to bring that up later. This is a very drama.
I did very much so. Like, this could be... You can
when
turn
you
this
say
into
drama, you mean like TV drama.
Yeah,
I mean, like TV drama.
This
Totally.
is a TV series.
This is a TV series waiting to happen. You know, this is going to hit the TV airwave somewhere, and it's going to make these people very, very rich. But you know, overall, I liked it. I thought the premise was engaging. I mean, if not the most original, it is still engaging. The plot twists were enough to keep you guessing what was going on. But I would have to say that my favorite character was not the dad, who is just kind of like, you know, I mean, interesting enough to carry the scene, but I think it's the wife that won me over.
Yeah, the wife is good.
Yeah,
she's good.
I think she's the secret best character. So we should say her name is Kasen, which is an interesting name. I don't think that's a name I've encountered before.
No, neither have I.
What did you like about her so much?
Like, cool. I don't know.
It is cool. Undeniably cool name. What made her your favorite character?
I think the scene. What is it on? It's on page 44, 45. That 2-page spread where, you know, after Tetsuo has just knocked his... Well, I guess it's his daughter's former boyfriend because he's no longer breathing.
Yeah, once you're dead, you're former everything.
Former everything. On the back of the head with the rice cooker, and he's just like kind of standing over, or he's kneeling over the body, crumpled down in front of the body, not really sure what to do. And she's like, oh, what is going on here? Oh my goodness. Is my sweet potato pie. What's going on here? Is he okay? Oh, is he dead? Oh, did you do what's going on here? Talk to me about it. Like, she's so chill, and then she's like, oh, you did this to protect our daughter. Oh, of course. No, let me help you dispose of this body.
Yeah, I love when she's like, well, the Yakuza get away with disposing bodies all the time. Why shouldn't we get away with it?
She has that, I don't want to say it's cold-blooded killer, but whereas I think Tetsuo is very emotionally weak, and I think if he had been left to his own devices and he had to take care of all this by himself, it would have broken him as a human. And then his wife comes in, and I mean, the two together, just the dynamic duo, and that's...
I thought of something. Are you saying that this is like Chino Wadachi if the couple worked together?
Exactly.
Or if they had a stronger marriage.
If they had a stronger marriage and it was tempered with humor, then it would be a very different series, and that series would be My Home Hero.
So far, what I'm understanding between the comparison of My Home Hero and Blood on the Tracks is these are both stories that feature characters. That's what makes them
killer characters.
Killer parents in a family setting.
Fair enough.
It's all to protect their children, by the way.
Speaking about the wife Kasen, she has a couple of really great moments in the story that I loved. And so, Mark, you mentioned that Tetsuo gets very emotional. There's a couple of key scenes in the manga where he gets super emotional, right? There's one where he's just suddenly like bawling and he's like, I'm so sorry I dragged you into this. And thank you so much, Kasen, for marrying me. And her reaction is just, She just goes like, yep. Good. And then they just continue right on with what they're doing, which I thought that was great. Very relatable. But the best was when she had her one really badass moment right towards the end of volume 1 where she's like, listen, I'm going to help you dispose of this dude's body because if he somehow came back to life and did this again to Reika, our daughter, I would kill him myself. And I was like, that's badass.
Yeah, pretty badass. She a good mom.
I think one thing this first volume, maybe. One thing this volume does well is it's pretty light on characterization overall for all of the main characters, but I think that the characterization it does is really intriguing. Like you get a sense of who these people are just enough to make you care about them, but it's scant enough, or like the details are sparse enough that as this series continues, you kind of wouldn't be surprised if you found out that there's all kinds of crazy stuff in their backstories. Like there's one part where she asks him, is this the first time you've killed somebody? And he's like, no.
Well,
what do you think?
I would ask that too. He's too good at it.
Totally valid question. And he's like, this is the 10th time you've asked me that. But we know that this series goes on for 20 volumes. I think we've all only read this first volume. Would you be super... okay.
Some of us.
Okay. So full disclosure, how much have you read?
Just to the end of volume 3.
You did a sprint.
Yeah.
So would you be super surprised if you found out later that actually this wasn't the first time he killed a guy?
Yeah, you would be surprised.
Okay. Having read 3 volumes, I trust you. You're the expert.
He does keep it. Yeah, like he's still I'm a normal man and this is a crazy situation I'm in. Like it stays that way. It's for at least to volume 3.
I guess that's pretty central to the whole conceit of the thing, right? Like that's kind of what makes this tick, is he's just this average dude who's doing all this crazy stuff. So we talked a little bit about Kasen. What did you think of her reaction when she walks into the room? Mark, you already kind of talked about it. Alex, what did you think of that moment? Because it's kind of like the big payoff at the end of the first chapter, right? What did you think about it? And then how did you feel about her character?
Part of it is like, story purposes, because we got to get the story moving. We can't have her like hung up on someone being dead for like the next 10 pages when the Yakuza are closing in. Like there's no time to lose. So like her acting fast is very central to the story. But yeah, it also later you find out, more about her character, which is like you had a favorite panel, and I'm just going to say that my favorite panel is when he said like, we gotta bury this body. And then she sends him a little like emoji thing.
Oh yeah,
like,
that would,
like,
yeah.
Roger. And it's just this
and he's
little,
like, what is this face?
like call emoji. And it's like so cute. Be like, Roger.
That was really good. It's like the old school emoji.
Yeah, the one before the smartphones.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very, like, mom response.
Totally.
So it's just, like, this cute mom response to, like, this terrible situation. But she's just like, we got to take it in stride. That kind of attitude, it continues, and it's very lovable. So, yeah.
She is very lovable. And it's funny, I totally agree that it is for story purposes, because now I'm imagining what the manga would be like if she had like a more quote unquote realistic reaction, and yeah, that wouldn't be super exciting.
Well, it would be the end of the story real quick because they'd be caught.
Yeah, it would be like
She'd be
it's
like,
how
I'm calling
in
the
every
police.
like tensei like manga, they don't spend like 50 pages having like a breakdown, and like now they're like
A little bit of therapy.
Yeah, like in real life, if you're like your entire world is like gone and like everyone you've ever loved no longer
that's a great
is
point.
like existing, and you're like in this crazy ass world like based on Dragon Quest, and now you have to like live here until you die.
You might question that reality around you just for a little bit.
Yeah,
But somehow those characters are always just like, well, gotta go find that
it's
MacGuffin.
because the story needs to go. So
Fair enough. So sometimes art only imitates life up to a certain extent. But, speaking of going into really, really great detail, I was sort of weirded out by several times throughout this first volume. The story just like pauses for a minute and goes into really great detail about like how to dispose of a body
yes.
in like painstaking detail. What did you think of that? Did that make you feel anything?
I feel like that's so central to mystery stories like this. I mean, that's been going on since Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. Like Sherlock would do the same thing when he's explaining how a crime was committed. Right? I think it's just doing like that, a scene from Conan, in this My Home Hero.
In the reverse.
In the reverse, right? Yeah, this time he's the guy that's doing the thing.
Culprit.
That's really cool. So that, in a way, it's kind of a love letter to like the tradition of mystery stories.
Absolutely. I think he's borrowing heavily from that tradition.
So it's definitely an intentional move, right? Because one thing we haven't really talked about yet is, in addition to being a slightly above average salaryman with limited upper body strength, Tetsuo also writes mystery stories in his spare time, and he's like a mystery story junkie.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like this meta fiction, right? Where the story is paying homage to like the tradition of that genre.
This is basically Hubert Cumberbatch as an average dad.
Very cool. Alex, what did you think of those descriptions of like how many times you would need to flush a toilet in order to dispose of a melted body?
Yeah, that's what I was saying in the beginning, that like I really need to get my knowledge up, because if I needed to dispose of a body, I literally have no idea how. And I guess it was ingenious to cook a body, and then
Literally, he cooks it. Like
he literally cooks a body in a tub.
In a tub.
He converts the bathtub into a pot and just heats it
That
up.
takes a
and,
lot of
a
like
hot
technical knowledge.
and like really spur of the moment thinking.
Yeah, he's just like, yeah, let me do it. I got to do it.
I murdered this guy about 15 minutes ago, and now I'm preparing the bathtub to cook him. Like, what the fuck? It's crazy. We've sort of touched on this already, but do you think that this manga is a comedy, or is it, like a mystery story with comedy elements? How funny did you think it was? How intentional do you think the comedy was, Alex?
Alex, go.
Okay. Well, I don't know. Like, I mean, I think it's funny in the way that a lot of Japanese family dramas are funny, in that
So what do
they
you mean
have
by
a
that?
lot of like moments that are just like silly, even though the story is mainly serious. Like in this one, I think the story is mainly serious. It's very life and death. And
Literally.
later on, it gets even more life and death. The stakes are raised further. So it's not like inherently funny situation at all. But it's got the little like bits of comedy just because it's like so life and death that like you need the little breaks or else it gets too much. So it's like a bit more funny than like Death Note. Like I feel like Death Note didn't have that many like slapstick moments.
Oh yeah, but
Don't
Death
remember
Note
that.
has a
Funny.
giant Duke like running around beside you.
Yeah, I guess
So
I guess they
think-
have like a mascot character. Yeah.
Right, like that's the suspension of disbelief. Otherwise, like this thing would be so the heaviness of murder and betrayal that lingers on this story needs a break, or otherwise you're just going to go back in blood on the tracks territory. Where if everything felt like that all the time, we would all be very depressed.
We'd be sad. But like, did the comedy land for you? Did you think it was funny?
There were some
'Cause there were a
moments that
few-
was okay, but like I don't think that's where it shines the most. It's kind of like a lot of
Okay.
dad jokes. Is that how I felt? I don't know, Jason.
I
What
mean,
did you
like
think?
the thing with the cow emoji, like I seriously laughed out loud, but at that
That was good.
me too.
That was good.
For me, there were a couple of like, it caught me off guard with how funny I thought it was. I don't know if I was like rolling around, lolling everywhere, but like when the Yakuza's buddy comes into the bathroom and Tetsuo is suddenly dressed like a professional bathroom cleaning
That was
service.
very slapstick because I was like, where did he get the shower cap?
But so I went back and read through a second read, and what you'll notice, there's foreshadowing in the panels a couple of pages back where like they're in the bathroom, and then you see that there is that apron that he wears just a few pages later. Like they show it very nonchalantly. Yeah. Well, no, that's like his maid outfit. And then she takes off the mask. She throws it very obviously into the trash can in the bathroom. Like everything that he needs for his disguise, it's all pretty much right there.
Oh,
Wow, that's cool.
Wow.
Well, so you might be able to help me. There was one thing in this volume that I could not figure out, which is, do you remember the scene where the guy's buddy, the Yakuza guy's buddy, is calling him on the phone? And it's really, really tense for a couple of pages. And then it's like, oh, luckily the Yakuza guy's phone is broken. I was like, when did the phone get broken? I even went back and tried to figure that out, and I couldn't.
He destroyed it.
Yeah, he did destroy it. Yeah, no, it doesn't.
But when though?
It doesn't spell it out. But what you have to do is to understand the chronology of what's going on. So he says like, oh, he's talking to Kubo-san, the little big bad, like the murderous guy.
The little big bad
on the phone.
He's a pretty big bad. He's a murdering like Yakuza man. So.
He's okay. He's a pretty big bad, but like he's telling him what to say. He's feeding him the script to Soichi, and then if you look at I'm gonna pull out the page number here. So this is right after page 79, where he finds out what's going on, and then he says, "Mochiron dozo ano otoko no keitai." Because he already knows. If you look at page 80 and you look at those cold killer eyes and Tetsuo's soul, you know that he broke that phone on purpose because he knew something like this might potentially happen.
Oh yeah, he's thinking ahead, like 3 steps ahead, and I mean that becomes even more apparent. The scene where it's like they put the listening device in the daughter's room, he immediately comes up with a script and decides to like do that with his wife.
That's funny that you mentioned that because I thought that was brilliant, the way that was executed. Because I was like, I totally get it. I see where this is coming from. It felt smooth, like that part of the chapter. Just like I was like, yeah, I was with it. But with the phone one, for some reason, that just jumped out to me as being like everything up until that point in the story felt like it was kind of spelled out very clearly. But for some reason, that phone thing required this like leap of logic that wasn't consistent with the rest of the storytelling. So for me, I was just like, it made me feel like I missed something. Anyway, that's
no, they don't show the phone being broken before that.
Yeah, I just didn't put the pieces together. See, and this is great because we're solving mysteries here in real time, just like in a detective novel.
Wow,
we didn't
it's
plan
like clues.
It's incredible. Speaking of the comedy aspect, I think my runner-up for favorite panel, or one of the runners-up, I got to give a shout out to the Sushi Zanmai panel. So there's this famous poster, a series of ads that everyone in Japan knows, where it's this sushi restaurant where the kind of jolly old man proprietor.
Is he that old?
Yeah, he's jolly. He's got his hands kind of out in like a presenting gesture, and he's doing this big smile.
He's usually got a large Mangaroo in front of him.
Sometimes he's been known to have one. The daughter Reika is like practicing card tricks, and then at the end of her trick, she's like, "And you got to sell it with the sushi's on my pose." And just the way it's drawn, I was just like, I kept flipping back to that because I found it so charming and hilarious. And then Tetsuo's reaction is like, "Sushi-zanmai wa mou ii desu yo."
Because like he's wrestling with like this existential crisis.
Yeah, because he just did his own kaitai. Like, you know how Mangaroo kaitai show is like a huge thing.
Yeah.
And actually, apparently, my husband's like cousin had a Mangaroo kaitai show at his wedding.
Oh wow!
Those things are expensive, but anyway.
We should explain to listeners that this is where you chop up and basically dismember a giant tuna fish.
Well, yeah, they get like this so big.
They get one of those giant tunas. I mean, I can't even show you like the size of. I don't know, like 3 or 4 beer kegs. Just imagine a tuna this large. we did
giant.
one
Very
at a
specific.
previous company that I worked at
Wow,
for like a
ritzy.
year-end party, and like
Wow.
these 2 sushi chefs with giant, like basically swords came in and were like chopping up not broccoli but instead tuna, and then they were just giving out like
Broccoli,
magaro.
the
As
normal
opposed
thing.
to the traditional broccoli
The
that people
broccoli.
usually chop.
As opposed to the
their
broccoli,
samurais
it's
with.
chopping broccoli. They and then they just passed out the sashimi to everyone.
Wow. I've
Well,
never
that's
seen
incredible.
one. But Tetsuo
Yeah, I have
definitely
not
had his
either.
own human Kai Tai show.
He had
Where
had enough of that.
Yeah, he had enough of dismembering.
And then Reika immediately follows that up by watching a zombie slasher
But
movie.
that
Yeah.
made me chuckle a little bit. He's like,
Which was
"Oh, this
pretty
is
great.
great." Last
Also,
thing
just-
you want to see.
kind of not really related to anything, but just the idea that Reika is in a, what is it, a nandemo sakuru, so like a anything club at
Yeah.
university, and just
Why
like all
not?
these little offhanded things. I don't know. I found it to be a pretty surprisingly hilarious manga. I was totally not expecting that. So for me, the big comp, Alex, you already compared this to Death Note, which I think is pretty accurate, but I could not stop thinking about Breaking Bad when I was reading this manga.
Yeah.
To me, that's like the most apt comparison. But what do you think? Did this give you Breaking Bad vibes? Is it just me?
Do you want to go first, Mark?
I would say I thought about this a lot, and I also noticed that there was some media who were saying the same thing. They were
Oh,
comparing.
really?
Oh, really?
Okay, so it's not
Really?
just
Yeah,
me.
no,
What
IGN.
media?
IGN France said the same
wow.
thing. It said it was very close.
Okay, I was like, okay, Western media. Like,
Yeah,
I don't- I feel like-
Western
yeah,
Western media,
alright.
not Japanese media, because this has been released in English now. They've got 3 volumes, and they're also picking up the anime. It's been licensed by Crunchyroll. I don't know when it's going to be released, but the English anime or the English manga just hit in February, so it's a recent release.
wow, cool.
And Western media has definitely been noting the Breaking Bad comparison. But here's my take on that. Yes, maybe season 1, Walter, but Walter White was. We find out that he was a deeply troubled man who
Yes,
veiled.
that's
he
what I was
veils
gonna say,
his-
yeah.
right. Like
Yes.
in the
I was
first
gonna
season,
say
it's like,
season
oh,
1, Walter.
yeah, just like a mild mannered teacher who just couldn't get a break, and now he's
Yeah.
got a
Cancer,
life-threatening
yeah.
illness, and he's got to provide for his family. But the more you watch Breaking Bad, the more you realize he's just veiling his increasingly evil action and this increasingly thinning guise of wanting to do what's best for his family. But dude, he's just a bad person.
He's a baddie. He was already
almost-
bad.
He was already bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's almost as if, he was Breaking Bad. But like, I get what you're saying, Mark. But like, none of us has read up to volume 20.
That's true.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say like I don't know, but the funny thing is that so in volume 2, he gets a Walter White hat.
Oh no.
Okay, so it's
A
definitely
Heisman Trophy?
But I didn't know
you
if
mean
I
the
should bring it
Heisenberg?
up, but then
Oh,
he asked this
Heisenberg.
question.
wow. Okay,
He
so
gets the Heisenberg hat.
Oh no.
but I mean, that's.
Do you think that's an homage?
No,
It might be. I
felt-
think it is because he goes out of his way to go to Akihabara, to go to a hat store.
to the Breaking
and-
Bad
To the
cosplay
Breaking
store.
Bad cosplay store. And then even the Yakuza are like, why did you go to that store? And he's like, I really like their hats.
And then in volume 4, someone throws a pizza on his roof, and we're still not totally sure about the Breaking Bad connection, but
It appears to me. It could possibly be there.
yeah, it's arguable.
You know, Walter White famously went to Akihabara for his hats.
He sure did. He knows where to find a good hat.
I don't know. Reading volume 1, I definitely felt like I even felt the homage vibes even in volume 1 because like you've got the very mild mannered father, you've got the wife who's like surprisingly
The laid
badass.
back.
Yeah, and then she gets really into it too, right?
But then also like
Skylar. Ooh.
the movie on TV is this American movie, so like there's clearly some affection for American media here.
The
And
English
yes, the
lines.
subtitles are incredible.
That's amazing.
Like
Oh yeah, the subtitles.
The first
What
English
was it
subtitle
again?
you see
like, why
is
are you
it's just like-
killing me or something?
the first one you see is it just some guy going fucking asshole, but there's a zombie on the screen, so it's like It's not really clear.
What's going on here?
Hang on, I'm trying to
This is a
find it
fucking
now
asshole.
because
There's some hidden messages in there.
there's some real good English happening in that second scene. Dang it, I can't find it right now.
Yeah, there's
Come back
one
to
which
me.
is like, what are you dying or something? I don't know.
What are you
It's
dying?
Like, why won't you die already?
Yeah, but it was like not that.
But rudely.
Yeah, it was a little bit off.
Well, we'll figure it out.
We'll
that
come back
can
to
be our end of the episode bonus surprise. Oh, here, I found it. Whatever do you not die?
Dude, not that.
And
then the
we've all
response is
found
in the
ourselves
next-
like that.
The next panel is just a terrifying looking man saying, well.
It is how they start. Every scene
very good.
starts well.
Well,
Well, you see.
I've been reading Suttree by Cormac McCarthy. It's his fourth novel, published in 1979. And there are entire lines of dialogue where it's just a character that says, well.
Oh, yeah.
And then the other character responds with, shit. And then that's the end of the conversation. And so this happens like
Genius.
dozens of times in the novel. No wonder he's America's most cherished writer of fiction. One thing, this might be a very specific to me thing, but I wanted to bounce this idea off of you. So, of all the manga we've read so far, and maybe of all the manga I've ever read, excluding maybe like Tezuka, like very, very old manga, I feel like there are a whole lot of thought bubbles in this manga. Like characters thinking stuff out loud, which I don't tend to associate with like quote unquote serious storytelling in manga. Did that jump out to you at all? And just what are your thoughts in general about thought bubbles as opposed to speech bubbles, or like, you know, those, what would you call them? Like the blocks of text that just are like
kind of
exposition
narration.
text.
Yeah, it's
yeah.
like.
What do you think about thought bubbles here specifically, but also in general, Alex?
They don't bother me, but I'm okay with that because I mean I've read a lot of things that are a lot of thinking. I mean, I was gonna bring up Death Note again because there's famously a lot of internal monologuing.
That's a good point. There it is.
And that never bothered me. So, I mean, as long as it's like internal monologuing that I find interesting, then I'm fine with that.
and not just
So-
like, this is a pen.
Yeah, which is the famous one of all Japanese books, I guess. It was like, this is a
That thought
pen.
bubble appears in all
Yeah.
English language texts. in
Yeah,
Japan,
but yeah, that's like cat mouse type, like chase, suspense. Totally fine for a thought.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. This is inner narrative that is absolutely essential for this story. I think you could easily turn this into Jason, Your Arch Nemesis, the light novel, and just take away the pictures and use that inner narrative, the inner monologue that's going on there to be the narrator's voice inside the story. And
Let it be known that I love light novels.
Really?
I don't want this to get picked up on social media. People start talking about how much I hate light novels.
strike it from the record.
And you're gonna have to beep that one out.
We'll beep
Don't
that
edit it out. Just bleep it.
I'll just bleep it out.
Okay, so for you, like tonally, it felt acceptable because
It didn't stand out to me. No, but what happened to you? What was going on in your heart that made it stand out so much?
let me explain my pain.
Please share with
so-
us. We haven't. We want to know. How can we help?
For me, like Alex, you mentioned Death Note again, and I think that's a good example of where thought bubbles would feel totally appropriate. For me, there's just something like very goofy or like Scooby-Doo vibes about seeing a character's thought bubbles. And this is probably coming from my background of reading like a lot of American comics and specifically Marvel comics when I was younger, right? Like if you look at like 1970s Spider-Man, there's just like a ton of static shots of him just like thinking stuff. But then the trend became, you know, in later decades, like, well, that's really corny. So instead of that, let's find other ways
To get out the dialogue.
telling that part of the story, right? And that became like the modern cool. And I don't know what the current trend is in American comics, but so for me, it felt kind of like a little corny and like a little bit goofy, but at the same time, I was thinking like, how else would you convey this information?
How else would you explain how you're gonna boil a human body?
Well, okay. Yeah.
Like
and
those
that's-
were okay, or okay?
Well, that's where it sort of broke down for me. So like, Mark, you made the light novel comment, and I think that if it was only Tetsuo's thought bubbles that we were getting, I think it might not have weirded me out so much. But we get thought bubbles from like everybody. Yep. Like even the random Yakuza guy who breaks into
inner
our house.
monologue.
He's not random. He's like one of the most important characters.
Soichiro?
Okay.
Soichiro?
It's a Kyoichi, right?
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry,
Kyoichi.
Kyoichi.
Yeah.
Soichiro.
He appears to be random at that part in the story. Or he
but
appears
he's
to be
actually, I'm telling you, he's the L.
No,
he is actually like the second most important
now that you
person.
say that, I see how it could easily end up being a battle between Tetsuo and then Kyoichi. Because they're both they're the only ones that are thinking with their heads instead of just trying to kill people.
So, but just returning to the concept of thought bubbles in general, because this is not something we've talked about before.
No.
So you don't associate them with any kind of particular like vibe of storytelling or like era, because for me they feel like this weird throwback. But you don't associate that at all.
No, because like I guess I didn't really read. I mean, I read like Archie comics and like Calvin and Hobbes.
They're never thinking anything.
Calvin and Hobbes,
yeah.
Calvin and Hobbes rules.
Yeah, but like I didn't really have any idea, I guess, about like tropes and stuff like that. So or trends.
You know who else relies heavily on thought bubbles? Garfield.
Garfield does, yeah, but that's because he can't speak. He's a cat, so he's kind of
he
confined
does
to the world.
heavily rely on
He's
thought bubbles,
heavily
yeah.
relying on it to get his point
I
across.
remember specifically when I was a little kid and I asked my mom, like, why does when Garfield talks, it looks like this? And when anyone else talks, it looks like this. And she was like, well, that's because Garfield's just thinking. And I read like dozens and dozens of volumes of Garfield comics before I realized that he was not actually
Maybe
speaking.
this is like past childhood trauma that's like appearing.
I'm unlocking this in real time.
We're
Like,
unpacking this together.
Yeah.
I never
Okay,
actually
but
thought about this until right
That's
now.
half the humor of Garfield. Is like Garfield
Yeah.
was ranting at John, and then John is like,
No, totally.
and here's a random response.
And I should mention, I was like 6 years old when I was, or 7 years old. I was a super young kid. I didn't realize how comics worked at that time. But as we've just found out, it left quite an impression on me. Okay, great. So, Alex, you've already shared with us what your favorite panel was. And I mentioned my runner-up. Mark, what was your favorite page or panel, or what did you like the best?
Okay, so I picked one that's kind of early on. It's on page 25, and this is just after, he's been beat up outside that cabaret. And then he spends the night in a manga kisa, which I don't know if anyone has ever done before, but it is a terrifying experience, and I will never do that again.
Really?
But
My night of
Okay, wait, pause. You need to tell us that story.
I'm not. Well, I remember.
Unless it will put you in legal trouble.
No, it wouldn't put me in legal trouble. I lived in a faraway. I lived outside of Tokyo for years and years and years. And then when I was young and full of energy, I came down to Tokyo for like one golden week or something like that. And I was hanging out with friends, staying with different friends and whatnot. And then everyone was saying, like when you go to Tokyo, the cheapest thing to do is to stay in a manga kisa. Like don't get a hotel. Don't do a capsule hotel. Do a manga kisa. It's great. You just have a really good time. I
don't know about great. It smells like smoke, but
it's well, I would, no, that didn't bother me at the time. And so my friend and I did it, and we each got a room, and I don't want to tell this story on the podcast, but it's...
Well, here it is.
Here it is.
Did you hear some people next to you?
You could hear the people all around you all night, and it was just... It was a little bit terrifying. It's not
and the lights are on the whole time.
And the lights are on the whole time.
Lights
it is
never go
not
off.
a place to rest. It's not a happy place. And I know that, gosh, I remember a few years back
I'm
when
going to push Aguretsuko again, but the last season of Aguretsuko is about people stuck in internet cafes, like young people. They don't have enough money to make rent, so they're just trapped living in the net cafe.
And then people, people used to... That used to be on the news a lot more in Japan too, and they would have
and well, even internationally too. Like, people who are running away from home, people who.
Do you think that the homelessness just got solved?
Well, I think there's less people now, so it's less of a. Honestly, I think it's less of an issue because, and there's more housing than there is people, unfortunately, in some respects. But I think probably the issue is not money, but they would be unable to rent a home for whatever reason. Because
one great thing about manga cafes compared to hotels is they don't really ask you for ID or anything.
No,
You just pay at the counter and you can just stay until your money is up,
And
basically.
it's got like free drink service, and then some
free
of them
drinks.
would have
Sometimes
free
has
food.
free soft serve.
Free soft serve, yeah, free ice cream, free miso soup. So like basically you could live inside a manga kisa and free
We
entertainment.
should mention that obviously you don't get a bed. You either get
No, it's
one
a
of
chair.
those. You
It's
get a
a chair
reclining
or
chair,
like
or
a-
you get
a
one of those ones that's just
tatami,
like
yeah.
a soft floor.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay, but
soft
see,
cushion. Looks like a
look-
gym mat.
Yeah,
looking back, I think
very easy to clean.
I found out later about the family room, which
What?
you
They're
can go
family
with
rooms.
rents.
Yeah, they're family rooms.
If I
Okay,
had
I'm not aware of
known, if
this.
I had known at the time to ask for a family room, I think we'd have had a very different experience because you can like close the door, you can actually stretch out. I'm a very tall person, so I was cramped up in this.
I mean,
chair.
when you're at family room, why won't you just go to a karaoke? Like
You could just sleep.
So is that-
Well,
why can't you
karaoke is
just
more
go to
expensive,
karaoke?
but it's more
Yeah,
expensive.
it's more expensive, but like family room, isn't it more expensive?
Maybe it is. Maybe it's.
What is a family room at a manga cafe?
Well-
What is it? Just bigger?
Oh,
They have like a
it's
DVD.
koshitsu.
They usually have
Yeah.
like koshitsu with like a little DVD like viewing TV or something.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And you don't go in by yourself. You bring a friend. You're like watching DVDs.
You bring
and
your
just hanging out.
family. Yeah.
Basically, yeah.
When you're here,
Bring
your
a date.
family. Yeah.
When you're your family. So
My one traumatic manga cafe story was when a friend of mine, we drove. Where the fuck did we drive to? I think we were in Kyoto. We drove from Kochi to somewhere, so it must have been Kyoto. And we were not expecting to stay the night, but we ran into a situation where we decided that we would have to stay the night. And the only place we could find was a manga cafe.
because they'll take anyone. Like yeah.
Yeah. And they were like, well, we only have one room left and it ain't a family room and there's two of you guys. So you figure out what you want to do. And he was like, God bless him. But my friend was just like, all right, I'll sleep under the desk. And so we actually both just like tried to sleep in this one. And I'll never do it again.
Yeah, it's just a bad decision. It's not a place that you want to find yourself if you can avoid it.
Yeah.
I did sort of think it was funny.
In like a business hotel, or I mean, those are not like terrible.
Business hotels can be pretty traumatizing. I've got my fair share of business hotel
wow.
stories as well. But
That's another.
never stayed
podcast.
in a capsule hotel though.
No, me
this
neither.
day.
I've stayed in like a capsule, a kind of like handmade capsule hotel. It's a little bit weird. It
Is this the time you were on the
claustrophobic.
train with your parents and they
No,
just
no,
stuffed
no,
you in a
no,
drawer? Oh, okay.
I went to Koyasan in Wakayama, and like there was like this couple, you know, who's very like naturey, like, you know, they make their own bread. Yeah, so those
No,
kind of people.
I know the kind.
I know exactly.
And they had like a little like hostel thing, which was like a capsule hostel, and
A
they
capsule
like
hostel.
hand built like wooden capsules, so it's pretty much like coffins.
A time capsule.
Yeah, stacked. And I
That's
stayed in
interesting.
one with a friend. She had her own, and it was like being in a little, like, you know, when they put in a morgue, when they put like
Oh, yes.
human bodies into the morgue thing.
It was like
and then
that?
shut the door. It was like
And then
that.
like the little carbon vapor seeps out.
Yeah.
I was gonna joke about that being their long-term business plan. Like, we make these now, let people sleep in them, and then when someone in town needs them, they're ready to go.
Oh,
And there's Buddhist temples all around, so plenty of people to perform ceremonies. Yeah.
Oh gosh!
By the
it's
way,
the ultimate
speaking of
upcycling.
those naturey people that make things out of wood, I want to give a shout out to Cafe Kukuru, which is this little cafe in Yokohama that I just went to for the first time the other day.
And did they
And-
bake some bread for you?
They baked donuts for us,
They baked
which were
donuts?
amazing. They were really good, and they came with fresh vegan cream and strawberry jam, and
Oh my
all of the
gosh.
food was handmade on the premises, and most of it was vegetarian. But what really stood out to me was their manga selection was on point.
Whoa.
Like,
What
had-
did they have that stood out to you?
They had all 3 volumes of Hoshi Sensei.
Wow. That's a good taste right there.
Yama
They-
Wayama.
Yeah.
They had a full shelf of Oku.
Whoa.
They had
Okay.
all 3 volumes
Have
of
they been
Yomi no
listening?
Tsugai.
Are they
I'm like-
are they kakure fan? Because we have a lot
I
of
found
those.
our big fan. There was a bunch of other stuff that I've either read or they had all of Slam Dunk. They had Chainsaw Man. They had Yomi no Tsugai, which is the new one from Arakawa Sensei. So like, and just tons of other good stuff too. I was like, this place rules. So I'll definitely be going back there. And if you're ever in Yokohama, please check out Cafe
I should check it
Kokura.
out.
They'll take
I'm
good
actually
care of it.
going to Yokohama for a wedding on Monday, but
Well, shoot. There you go.
You'll know where to go to get
Who gets married
donuts.
on
to
a
get
Monday?
to get the after party wedding. You know?
Sound like someone got a case of the Mondays.
Yeah.
Speaking of Garfield, what were you talking about, Mark? Your favorite panel?
Yeah, we're talking about my favorite panel. So, right after Tetsuo spends the night in the manga cafe, which is the
Manga
last
cafe.
place that you want to spend because he's been beat up, he's crying, he's regretting his life. He's like, I've spent, 20 years
Can I
of my...
just...
Yeah.
While he's crying and sobbing, the guy next door to him is like,
Yeah.
this guy's jerking off.
Yeah.
It's sure weird. And I was like, that was another example of this.
That's also why you don't want to stay in a
a
manga cafe.
because that's a real aru of a manga cafe. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Just people crying around you. And
Sometimes crying and jerking off at the same time.
I don't want to know.
Wait, what?
That's what we were just talking about.
So he calls his family first. He calls his wife and says, I've been hurt, so I'm not coming home. It's really late. She just takes that at face value because she's a good wife and they have a healthy relationship. Then he calls his office the next morning and says, I've been hurt. I'm okay, but I can't come into work because I've been hurt. I mean, we've all tried that. We've all pulled that one before. Oh, can't go into work today. I'm hurt.
I got punched in the face.
I got punched. No work for me. I need to go to the emergency room.
But you should see the other guy.
You should see. Exactly. Just got to throw that in there. A little self-respect. But
Yeah,
then
don't throw that in where the Yakuza might be listening to you.
but no, on page 25, when he puts on that cape and it's like, Ikarito. Like, that is so kind of bad. It's his
That was very
jacket,
good.
but it's pretty badass.
It is the
that was a
salaryman
good one.
cape.
It is a salaryman cape, exactly. And I feel like that is when he kind of turns the corner as a person. But
Was that his Breaking Bad moment?
that was that was when he just broke bad for the first time. But then my least favorite scene is just a few pages before that.
Furuchin!
No, it wasn't that. It was
okay.
It was page 18. When Nobuto, who is the littlest of all bads because he dies so early on,
Yes.
gives him this nasty look and then throws the cigarette at Tetsuo,
Oh, yeah.
and he's like, but I think there's a good chance that that this either I can't blame Yamakawa, but I think we might have to blame the guy who illustrated the manga on never having smoked a cigarette in his life, because clearly this thing isn't lit, and he throws one. He's
very
like
good point.
he's like walking down the street for several minutes, and it hasn't shortened its length at all, and then he just like throws it at him, and he's like, "Oh, it's so hot," but it's clearly not even lit.
But that's like funny because I was going to say this guy's art is pretty great though. I like this art overall, but I guess like the cigarette art is lacking.
Well, I don't know if he
Yeah, we
did.
haven't
I don't know
talked
if he did
about
that
the
on
art
purpose.
specifically, but
Yeah, well, everything else is beautiful.
it's really, really well drawn. I think there's one panel on page 55 where Tetsuo is just crying but trying to look very brave that I just think is like really great facial illustration.
He does that a
I'm a
lot.
big fan.
Tetsuo's such a complex character. Well, he's
Yeah,
a
he's a-
weenie, really.
He's a
But
weenie,
Pretty
but,
much.
He's a weenie trying to do what's right, in a way.
but he's also kind of a mastermind.
He is. He
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
So I guess I should say my favorite panel was actually the 2-page spread on page 98 and 99, and I think this is the first time. What's his name? Aikawa. It's when he's first introduced. He
yeah.
appears to be like the mastermind of the bad guys,
Isn't
which
it?
maybe not.
It's like, is that? I think it's another name, but whatever.
Yeah, that's just the fake name he gives,
Oh,
but I
yeah,
can't
yeah,
remember
yeah,
what
yeah.
Yeah,
his
no,
real
it's
name is.
Matori-san. Matori-san
Yeah, it's
is his
Matori-
name.
Matori-
Because
Matori-san,
he's
yeah.
he's Nobuto's dad.
Yeah.
That's right, of course. Yeah,
Nobuto's
stupid.
dad.
But and that is part of the point I was trying to make, was just like on the right hand side you see Tetsuo sitting in front of the
Double dads.
cooking the yakuza stew that he's making there in the bathtub. And then on the opposite page, you've
Double
got
dads, it is
Matori-san
double
sitting at
dads.
his desk with his 3 telephones.
Yeah.
And they're in the same position, and then we find out actually that they're motivated by the exact same thing.
Yep.
Which
Love
is,
for
I
their
will do
family.
anything to protect my child. Which I
Protect
thought
the
that was a
child.
really nice,
That was a
just
nice
really
touch, yeah.
well executed doubling, and just really nicely drawn, to be honest, as well. There's one elephant in the room that I can't believe we've gone this long without addressing it, but you can see a dude's dick in this manga.
I mean, I brought out that elephant pretty fast.
You did.
Well, that was on.
We've been
that was on the group
scandalized
chat.
by panty shots before, so.
But so Alex, you might have to help me out with this. But I thought that there was like a rule that you're not allowed to draw, you know, a wiener, a penis.
I thought it was
in
you
a manga.
can't draw pubes.
Wait,
But
what?
it's all right here for you to see in this manga.
Is it
So like,
hairy? I didn't inspect.
well, it's shadowy. You could argue that it's artistically depicted. It's it's not Tetsuo captured
I
at
mean,
his
this is
finest
also
moment.
this is also like a seinen manga, so maybe it's like the rules are okay. I don't know.
Interesting, but so that. I simultaneously feel like thank you, Alex, for giving us the heads up because you did warn us about that in the group chat before we read the manga. But also, I kind of wish that I hadn't known because it would have been extremely shocking. So, what did you think when you encountered it?
I was just like breezing through the manga at a pretty brisk pace, so that's what has stopped me in my tracks because it kind of comes out of nowhere.
It's extremely rare.
He's just like checking out, who are these shady guys? Where's their place of work? Oh, there's a Kabakura. Like, things are sketchy. And then all of a sudden, bam, he's found himself naked in garbage.
Literally in a pile of trash outside in an alley. They stripped him of all of his clothes. They take a picture of him with his photo ID in the same photo.
In broad daylight.
Yeah, and the most insulting part of all, they left his black socks on. So he's just 100% naked except for his socks in a pile of garbage. Just how humiliating.
Is that the most humiliating you could think of? Is if they left your socks on?
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm sure this is somebody's fetish somewhere, but there's nothing less attractive than a naked man wearing nothing but socks. Is there? That to me has always been an exceptionally ridiculous look.
Mark.
Maybe that's just me.
I've never.
Mark, what do you think about a naked man wearing only socks?
Well, I've never thought about it.
Even the Red Hot Chili Peppers? Okay, I take back my statement. When they do it, it looks cool.
It depends upon how you wear 'em, I think is the answer to that question.
Mark, what did you think of that revelation? It comes fairly early on in chapter 1. Did you feel any kind of way about it, or are you like ho hum?
No, I thought the tenkai, like the way that the scenes were going, were a little bit fast. Actually, it felt rushed, and I didn't really get it until I read it a second time. But basically, he's following Nobuto and his friends, and to this building, and then he goes inside and there's a cabaret on like the 5th floor, and then he just basically gets off the elevator and he just sees inside the cabaret a little bit, and then the door guy or whatever comes out and says, you were looking, that's gonna be $500. And he was like, what?
Just for looking.
I just got his no, but you looked inside, so come on, 500. And then when he doesn't pay up, he punches him in the face, and then when he doesn't pay up after that, he takes him outside. And basically beats him up, leaves him naked, and then takes his photo and whatnot because he's a bad dude.
You're right that the first few, like 20, 25 pages of the first chapter they really move fast.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot happening. And I had the same sort of issue where I was like, wait, what just happened? I had to kind of read that page again, the page where he got punched by like the doorman.
Yeah, it's like
wait,
literally disorienting.
It is.
Yeah. And then so I appreciate it in retrospect, but in the moment of reading it, I was kind of like, whoa, what's going on?
I mostly mentioned it because I know that you
have.
have a habit of reading on a train, and I thought maybe like that wouldn't be the best page to have. It's kind of a big panel, so if there's like a little lady next to you,
I would have had a very Doki Doki Panic of a moment if. Wow, that's very. Thank you. Well, please continue to give me those sorts of heads up in the future because
I gave a very glaring warning about one read that we didn't get to do. That was.
Mark has chastised me for reading manga too slowly, but I read the first half of this volume in my bed, and then I read the second half the following night on the train. So even knowing what came earlier, I still risked it to read the rest in a train environment. So you were very spot on about that. All right, well, I think that about does it for our discussion of My Home Hero. Final question, as always. Mark, would you recommend My Home Hero, and how interested would you be in reading Volume 2?
Okay, so...
And then, Alex, same question for you, but substitute Volume 2 for Volume 4.
All right, check this. It ends on a cliffhanger, as all the best stories do. So I think it definitely made me want to go and read Volume 2. So I would say that I'm pretty likely to invest time. It's got 20 volumes so far, so you know the story runs deep. It's not like this has been going on for a while now. There's a lot that's going into this. It's already, as of last month, it's sold almost 3 million copies. It's pretty popular up there. It's getting the anime bump. So I think this is a property that's going to be continuing for the foreseeable future. I think it's one I would recommend.
Cool. Alex, what do you think?
Yes, I would recommend it because I did get into it. It's like if you like I've said like the same thing over and over again, but if you like Cat Mouse, if you like Death Note, if you like Japanese family dramas, then this is like an amalgamation of that. And I think you need to read this. I'll probably read Volume 4, but especially because because there's a special campaign with the anime coming out, so I can read it for free. Maybe I shouldn't have said that.
Maybe edit that part out too.
When I watched the trailer, like I was struck that like the animation is not up to par with the quality of the art in the story, I believe.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, we should mention that it's Tezuka Studios doing the anime, and they've got kind of a house style.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I wasn't like feeling it in the trailer, but maybe I should watch an episode and find out.
No, I agree. I'm not super excited to watch the anime. I mean, I never really am. Even in the case of something like Kimetsu, where it's noticeably like way more gorgeous, but yeah, I enjoyed Volume 1 a lot. I think I will read Volume 2 at some point. I don't feel like I gotta rush out and read it right now, but definitely interested to see. So for me, I'm really interested in the family, in Tetsuo and Kasen and Reika. I really want to see what happens to them. I wasn't super invested in any of the villains. I wasn't really, I don't super care what happens with them.
I think you're gonna get more, like you definitely get more of them, so... You might.
Cool. Okay.
You might get more invested, like especially.
Yeah, I need that
said,
before I get.
Was it Kyoichi? He's definitely main character. You get more on him. You might.
Yeah, that is intriguing. So who knows? I mean, I'll get there one of these days. But this has been our discussion of My Home Hero. Thank you very much. If you've listened this far, why don't you email us, for God's sake? I mean, come on, you just spent an hour listening to us. So you can email us at mangaroospodcast@gmail.com. If you don't feel like emailing us, that's okay. You can give us a review wherever you listen to this. Give us a 5-star review. Oh, see, now that's
2 for 1 special. We call that the family room.
Yeah, give us the old family room treatment. Yep, I'm putting that out into the world. We'd love to hear from you. And what are we going to be reading next week? It's our final episode in our suspense suite of episodes.
The suspense is nearly killing me, especially after this episode. We are going to take a deep dive into the world of Ajin. So what would you do if you had a giant black specter basically covering your back at every turn and preventing you from dying? Would you use that power for good or for evil? Find out next week on Mangaroos.
Find out if we would use it for evil.
Yeah, I was not prepared to answer those questions. I'm excited to see what's going to happen in the ensuing week. But take care, everybody. Have fun.
Bye.
Bye for now.